What's going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing great. Welcome back to the Driverse Media YouTube channel. My name is Jace. I'm an automotive photographer. I've been doing this for a little over 4 months. Actually, today marks 5 months that I've been officially doing this, so that's very exciting. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a photo shoot with the Tacoma TRD. Hit up some Starbucks right now and get some coffee, and then we're going to go meet them up at the meetup location. And then we're gonna roll out from there. I'm gonna kind of show you guys some behind the scenes of how I shoot my photos for Instagram, and then later on I'll show you guys how I actually edit the photos. But yeah, hopefully today is gonna be a good one, guys, so stay tuned and I'll see you soon. So we are at our first location. We're just gonna meet up at this parking ramp really quick. Here's the view. I actually just did a couple shots of him facing the other way. It's a beautiful Tacoma. This is my first ever Tacoma that I've ever shot. Pretty exciting stuff. See these little like bars and everything and these pillars. I'm using this to frame the truck up really nice in the photos, so I thought I would share that with you guys. I'm gonna throw up some of the pictures that I've done and already edited on the screen for you guys so you can see kind of like what I'm talking about and the final photos and what they're gonna look like. So we're at the, what is this, the third location now? This is the third location. What the plan is we're just gonna get you lined up right in the middle. Take a few photos there.
Yeah, I'll try to get right down the middle, and if somebody comes, I'll have to go over to the side, obviously.
Sweet, sweet.
Get by.
So yeah, I'll let you get in position. This guy is so nice, man. Like, he's probably one of the coolest dudes that I've ever shot with so far. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great turnout for these photos, guys. I'm gonna throw up some of the photos that I've taken from this location already. So go ahead and check those out. If you guys have any questions about how I thought about it, just let me know down in the comments. That is beautiful. I mean, if you guys check this out, I mean, just look at that shot. It's gonna turn out great. That's it for now. I'll meet you guys at the other location in a little bit. All right, guys, so we finally just got to Epic. If you guys can see, there's that cool little rock tunnel there. I'm gonna quickly cut the video and we're gonna set him up. I'm gonna help him get the car and get the truck angled right, and then I'll pop up the photos for you guys on the screen. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna get right into photographing the truck for you guys, and yeah. Alright, so it's been a few days since I shot the Quicksand Tacoma TRD, and as you guys can tell from the footage, it truly is a magnificent color. It's probably one of my favorite colors of the Tacomas that I've shot so far. You guys might hate me for saying this, but I already went ahead and edited the photos already. But don't worry, I'm going to be starting from scratch on one of them today. By the way, I did make a Lightroom preset for these, so if you want to go over to my website, you can purchase, download, and apply these to your own images. Anyways, before we actually hop on the computer and start editing these photos, I just want to touch on a few things when it comes to automotive photography. I shot pretty much all of these images underexposed so I could save the highlights in post. Most cameras can do a pretty good job of retaining the details in the shadows when you shoot in the RAW format, so that's just a quick tip if you're out shooting in the daytime like I was. Another quick tip is that I kept my aperture to around f4 to f5. This allowed me to keep the subject, which is the Tacoma in this case, sharpened and in focus. I hardly ever use a low aperture unless I want a crazy depth of field like in detail shots. Another good thing to keep in mind is to make sure that the subject is centered up nicely in the frame. Since my images are used for Instagram most of the time, this is just a great way to keep my grid looking nice. This kind of leads into another tip that I have for you. Take a ton of photos. I probably had about 400 photos from this shoot, and thank goodness I did, because it's a horrible thing to know that you didn't get the shot that you wanted. Also, I use a CPL filter on my lens, so when I'm out there shooting, I can simply turn the filter to cut out certain reflections on the car. If you want to take your photos to the next level, I suggest combining 2 CPL photos into one. If you don't know what I'm talking about or how to do it, I will be doing a YouTube tutorial on this in the future. But if you want to learn right now, I suggest going to the Car Creative's YouTube channel, as he is the one who initially showed me how to do it. Speaking of the Car Creative, Alex and I were actually chatting a little bit about doing an Instagram live in the future, so who knows, it might happen. Should be loads of fun to talk live with you guys and answer any questions you might have about automotive photography or if you want to just get to know me on like a personal level, this is your opportunity. But with that being said, let me stop rambling and get to the real reason why you are watching this video. Okay, I've got the image loaded up into Lightroom right now, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with this editing tutorial. I will be editing this photo from complete scratch, so hopefully you can learn something from it and apply it to your own creative journey. So let's go ahead, and first thing we're gonna do is crop it for Instagram. So we're gonna come up to 4:5. Next thing I'm gonna do, I learned this trick from Alex the Car Creative. If you take the graduated filter and you drag it from the side, go down to luminosity. Okay, so the range mask, use luminosity. Click this little check mark button so you can see what you're actually changing and affecting. Drag this down so you can only see the shadows. We're gonna bring up the detail and the shadows just by dragging this up, and I think we're gonna stop at around 70. Next thing I'm gonna do is bring back the details and the highlights, since I just brought back the details and the shadows. Drag down the highlights, and as you can tell, it's looking pretty flat and it's actually pretty dark. So we're gonna bring up the exposure. Since I shot the image underexposed, we're going to bring it back up in post. 1.47, I think that's properly exposed now. We're going to drag back some contrast as well, because I'm going to use the tone curve to add contrast back in now. So we're going to drag down the clarity, because that's what I don't like in my image, is a whole lot of clarity. Next thing we're going to do is bring in some dehaze, and this will kind of bring in some contrast. Next thing I do is drag out the saturation, because I will do a selective, I'll bring back the colors later by just selecting the colors that I want. So the next thing that I do is I come down to the tone curve, and we're gonna just apply some contrast to the image. Just gonna play around with it here. Alright, right about there should be fine. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is come down to detail. And there's not a whole lot of noise in this image naturally, so I can actually get away with bringing up the amount and the radius. Next thing we'll do is hold Option on the keyboard so you can see what you're masking. And I just want to make sure the edges of the Tacoma are in focus and sharp. Come down to lens correction. Check this off just to make sure. But like I said earlier, when I desaturate the image, we're going to come up to color and bring back the colors that I want. So red is going to be like in the license plate and under down here. So we're going to bring the exposure out, or the saturation back, I should say. Also make it pop with a little bit of luminance. Next thing we're going to do is check the oranges, which oranges are in the truck, so we want to make sure that pops out. Bring up the luminosity in that as well. Check the yellows, which the yellows are also in the truck. Right around 60 is going to be good. Bring up the luminosity in that as well. Greens, there's no greens in this image. Aquas tend to lie in the windshield here, so we'll take that out completely. Blues, if we zoom out here, blues are going to be in the sky and in the snow, which we don't really want. So I'm going to bring the saturation down to 15. And I also want a little bit of a teal color in there, so I'll bring this down, bring the hue down to there as well. Next thing I'm going to do is use my graduated filters to bring attention towards the Tacoma. So I'll go into my graduated filters here, drag it up from the bottom all the way up to the Tacoma, reset my effects here, go to exposure, and I'm just going to bring the exposure down a little bit in the ground, but we're going to bring out the whites just to make them pop out a little bit. Also, what I'm going to do is drag a graduated filter down from the top. I'm going to go ahead and hit this so I know what I'm affecting. And I'm just going to play around with it here, bring down the exposure a little bit, make the sky a little bit more yellow to have that sunrise effect. That's what I like in my images. I'm just going to kind of turn this here, see what we can get away with. Alright, and that's looking good. Maybe bring back some dehaze, make the color, make the details in the clouds pop out a little bit. I think that's pretty good. Maybe tone back the tint a little bit. Okay, there we go. So the next thing I will do is have the radial filter over the truck. Go ahead and go like this, invert it so I can see what I'm affecting, and I only want it to be the truck, so there we go. Bring up the feather, turn this off. We're going to bring up the exposure on it to make it pop out a little bit. Bring back the contrast to make it look natural. Bring up the shadows a little bit so I can see the detail in the grille and in the tires. Bring back the haze a little bit to add some more contrast in there. I'm going to add some clarity to the truck, and then we're going to dial back the blacks just to make it sit more natural in the image, which I think it is looking good. Maybe I'll add a little bit of sharpness to it as well. So that's without it, and that's with it, without it, with it. Definitely makes the truck pop out a little bit more in the image. And my own style for color grading is usually 200, saturation 10 for the shadows, and highlights is 40, saturation 10. And I play around with the blending mode, which I usually bring up a little bit. And since this is a winter style image, I'm going to keep it a little bit more cold. So we're going to bring the balance back down to -10. Go into your midtones here and bring this up a little bit so it pops out a little bit more. So that's without the color grading, and that's with the color grading. The last thing that I usually do is come back up to the basic panel and just make sure that the exposure is set right, which we could probably get away with bringing it up a little bit. And then that's looking pretty good, guys. It's pretty much done. So if you hit L on your keyboard, you can go like this with your screen. There's a quick before, and there's an after. Do it again for you guys. Definitely a whole lot of difference in there, and I'm really satisfied with the actual end photo. This will be posted on Instagram soon. Who knows, if you guys, by the time you're seeing this video, it might already be up. So yeah, that is the editing tutorial for this. And the last thing that I want to show you is my export settings for Instagram. So if I right click on the image, go down to export, I have a preset already set for Instagram portrait, which is this one right here. So if I click on that, we'll go into the file settings. I have JPEG, sRGB, limit file size of 3000K, image sizing 300 megapixels just to make sure it's nice and crisp when I upload it to Instagram. And then I'll go ahead and export this. And then usually what I do on Instagram is just bring up the sharpening a little bit and maybe mess around with the exposure just to make sure it's looking really nice, because sometimes the difference between the computer and my phone is a little bit different, so I just fix it on there. Okay guys, that is pretty much it when it comes to how I shoot and edit for Instagram. I intended to get more footage when I was out there shooting the Tacoma, but since this is my first time filming like a behind the scenes, I totally lost track. That's my apologies. But I hope you all enjoyed this quick video and were able to take something away from it, as that is my goal with this channel, to teach you guys automotive photography and how to edit, show you guys behind the scenes and all that cool stuff. Just a reminder, the presets for this shoot are already on my website, so if you want to get the same look on your images, or if you want to just support me, go ahead and pick it up. Also, I just want to say thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for showing me constant support on social media. It means the absolute world to me to know that I have this many people who believe in me. Thank you guys so much for keeping me motivated, and I love every single one of you. But without further ado, that is it for today's video. I am out of here. If you like this sort of content, you like this video and you learned something, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're into this sort of content and you want to see more of it, go ahead and subscribe, because I'll be doing more of these videos in the future. This is super fun. I like getting in front of the camera and talking with you guys. It's super cool that I'm able to do that. Do me a favor and share it with your friend, or post it to your IG story. Let them know that I'm out here giving tips for you guys on automotive photography and how to edit. I'm sure a lot of other people would like to see this sort of content, so it would be a great help to me. I appreciate it. But without further ado, I'm out of here. That is it for today's video. Peace.